In Normandy, there are 16 cemeteries for the fallen of the British forces that participated in the D-Day invasion and were in the forefront of the fierce fighting that during July and August drove the enemy from the coastal regions of northern Europe. But unlike the cemeteries of the United States and Canada, many of these burial grounds house enemy dead too. In this slideshow, British 1, 7 of the 16 graveyards are pictured in the order of their geographical position, west to east, those closest to the coast first. Under this dispensation, the first site encountered is a relatively small burial ground near the village of Bazonville. Its premier position is fitting, for it houses those of the Northumbrian Division who died on Gold Beach on D-Day, along with others killed as the advance inland continued. It is named the Rees Cemetery, but as you see, the village of Rees is 3 kilometers northwest of Bazonville, where the cemetery is actually located. So it is referred to more commonly by the name of that village, Bazonville. 630 British, 21 Canadian, 1 Australian, 1 Pole, and 326 German soldiers lie here. 19 of the dead could not be identified. In a departure from the usual layout of Commonwealth cemeteries, this site has no stone of remembrance, but includes vine-wreathed arbors on either side of the cross of sacrifice that add greatly to its vicinity, a fact commented on by many visitors. Note that the top of the gray stone of the Polish soldier is angled rather than rounded. Some 15 kilometers east of the Bazonville site is the Douve-la-Délivrande Cemetery. It is just inside the southern entrance of the village of that name. As you see, it is a relatively small, well-arranged rectangle. A small brick and stone structure with a pointed roof is central to the entrance. It is flanked by massive limestone lintels supported by round columns of buff-colored brick. It houses the graves of 1,123 soldiers. Of these, 927 are British, 180 German, 11 Canadian, 3 Australian, 1 Pole, and 1 unknown. Pictured here, the British graves. And the German graves. The largest British cemetery in Normandy is in the southwestern outskirts of the town of Bayeux. It houses 4,648 graves, of which 3,935 are of British soldiers and sailors, 338 of them unidentified. There are also 466 German dead, 181 Canadian, 25 Polish, 17 Australian, 8 New Zealander, 7 Russian, 3 French, 2 Czech, 2 Italian, 1 South African, and 1 unidentified, but not British. This cemetery has prosaic identification markers on low piers flanking the entrance, but that simple entrance faces an imposing memorial that lists the names of 2,808 British soldiers whose remains were not found. As you see here, only tall trees relieve the austerity of the conventional stone of remembrance and cross of sacrifice. The two small buildings add nothing to the overall low vicinity of the site, but the plants on individual graves can be impressive. There are plaques commemorating two of the units responsible for the liberation of Bayeux: the 2nd Battalion of the Essex Regiment, the Pompadour, and the Nottinghamshire Yeomanry, the Sherwood Rangers. The cemetery next in order is in the village of Hermonville-sur-Mer. As you see, the village is some 30 kilometers, 19 miles, east of Bayeux, and the cemetery site is less than 3 kilometers from the coast. It holds 1,005 graves. 986 stones mark those of British soldiers, many of them of the 2nd East Yorkshire and 1st South Lancaster regiments, who on 6 June 1944 fought their way inland from Sword Beach and freed the village by 9:30 in the morning. 103 of them are unidentified. There are also 13 Canadian, 3 Australian, and 3 French dead here. Like all Commonwealth cemeteries, this one is maintained beautifully. Another small British cemetery is on the eastern margin of the hamlet of Secqueville-en-Bessin, some 16 kilometers southwest of Hermonville. Here, in a long, narrow plot, are buried 98 named British soldiers and 1 unidentified, along with 18 German dead. There are 2 plots, one on either side of the cross of sacrifice. The more numerous British occupy the plot nearer the entrance, and most of the one on the other side of the trees. Note the angled tops of the German gravestones, a convention followed in all of the Commonwealth World War II cemeteries of Normandy. The smallest of the British Second World War cemeteries in Normandy is another of those with 2 names. It is 8 kilometers southeast of Bayeux on the left of Highway D9. The nearest village is Chouin, but the name assigned this site is Jerusalem. It contains 47 graves, 45 of British soldiers, 1 unidentified, and 1 Czech. Even though its occupants are few, the cross of sacrifice is there, and the customary entourage of a well-tended garden. Of the British World War II cemeteries in Normandy, the next in order is named after the village of Brouet, for it is just behind the church. As you see, it is only 7 kilometers east of the Jerusalem site. There are 377 gravestones in the cemetery, only 7 of which are not carved with the name of a soldier, 368 British and 2 Canadian. Many are from the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, the East Lancashire Regiment, and the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry, so that the fallen are among comrades from the units that in late July fought for the liberation of Caen. Here the graves are on gentle slopes that offer panoramic views of the site with its rows of roses. The other 9 soon in British II.